introduction of our keynote speaker today. And you know he's Army, so we're going to be loud today, all right? Cool. All right. So we've had the pleasure of having Colonel U.S. Army retired Darel Maxfield. Colonel Darel C. Maxfield enlisted in the U.S. Army as a basic infantry rifleman at Fort Dix, New Jersey in February of 1983, and later received commission as a second lieutenant through the U.S. Army Officer Candidate School. Amongst his many accomplishments while serving 28 years in uniform, Colonel Maxfield commanded the 3rd Battalion of the 415th Regiment, headquartered right here in Spokane. There we go. All right. He also served as U.S. Commander of the Iraqi National Training Center in Mesmaya, Iraq. There, he and his 29 U.S. soldiers built the training center and trained new Iraqi Army soldiers while conducting local area security operations. Colonel Maxfield's military awards and decorations include 3 Meritorious Service Medals, a Bronze Star Medal, and a Legion of Merit. Please, everyone here, give me a big round of applause for Colonel Darel Maxfield.
One of the things that is easy to remember is that, with every military operation, each of the various branches and the subunits within the branches have music that's attached to them. And Army Aviation, for example, has been attached since the early 90s with a song by AC/DC called Hell's Bells. And there's a reason for that. If you're not familiar with it, I won't bore you with the details, but there's a deep and abiding reason for that. If you've been part of artillery or air defense artillery, you know that, for example, Thunderstruck has a very deep and meaningful relationship with things that go boom and make a lot of noise. And thus, when I was talking to Paul this morning, he said, "Do you have a piece of music that would be particularly important to you?" And I said, "You know what? When I was in my other life, Thunderstruck was the answer." And so I appreciate that, Paul. Thank you very much. Thank you. One of the beauties of being a keynote speaker is that there are responsibilities that go with being a keynote speaker. And so the very first thing you're supposed to do is get up and recognize the VIPs in the room. And I look around here and have spent a few days with you now, and to be honest with you, that's a really tough job. And you're going to say, "Well, why is that a tough job?" It's because, to be honest with you, and I'm not kidding when I say this, each one of you are VIPs. Each one of you are part of an incredible organization that gives life to words, that actually does something. And I'll talk more about that here shortly. But please understand that each of you that are here today, that are seated in this room, are VIPs. Now, some of you are really smart VIPs, much like when you go to church, you find out that the people that are really smart and are there first always sit in the back of the room. And so, to the smart VIPs out there, I want you to be recognized and applauded. But let's by name go through a couple people. And the first person that I think really deserves recognition, special recognition, is Director Fuentes. I think if you really take a look at an agency's leadership, an agency or an organization, any organization within the military particularly, and the military has a special relationship with command. But if you're the commander, you're responsible for everything that happens or fails to happen. And if you take a look at the great success that we are celebrating today, look at your leadership. The leadership either makes happen or fails to make happen everything that happens within a given organization, within a given time. And ladies and gentlemen, that man right there is walking point for you every day. And I think he does a marvelous job. There are other people that have come up to me over the last couple of days, actually since since I learned that I was given this opportunity, responsibility, and authority, and great grace that I was extended, there have been people coming up to me and saying, hey, would you mind trying to say a nice thing about? And it's really funny because most of the people that are asking for recognition for these people are their supporters, or people that, you might think, they probably don't like them much because, to be honest with you, they have to work for them. But the truth of the matter is that I have been beaten up several times now about asking for special recognition for all sorts of folks, including Paul Cruz, who runs the show back there in the woods. And obviously Rick, Colonel Rick, or the assistant director, he makes this, he does it. But the director of employment, the employment division is a fellow named Ishmadadi, who is right down here, and he has been the #1 request amongst the people that I've met just in the last couple of days. So, Ish, thank you. There are a couple other people that I think deserve special recognition before I start with this, and that's a fellow named Seth Meyer, who is my beloved friend and brother, and somebody that I have been in a support group, and I don't want to knock out the support group because that's the #1 rule. You don't talk about what happens behind those closed doors, but he is a member of your community who does extraordinarily great things for people who really you will never know, and more importantly, will never ever be able to say thank you for his roles in not just his professional job, which he does extremely well, but in the rest of his life as he stays with veterans who are hanging on to try to give them reason to hang on for one more day, or to advocate for a job or a career or a life-changing experience with people that honestly aren't necessarily loved and aren't really easy to love. I can tell you with my own personal experience that he made well over 20, probably close to 100 phone calls, not just during his workday, but during all of his days and weeks and months, on behalf of a fella that is certainly unlovable, but he never, ever quit trying to advocate for a special veteran who arguably was not very lovable. And so, but his experience is not unique. If you take a look at the art, for example, the art is a beautiful thing, and it's apparent that it's something, but the greatness is not necessarily in the art, but it's in the people that touch the artists and encourage the artists and protect them and nurture them and give them power and place. And that is you. And so for that, I should recognize each and every one of you by name and by biography, but we'd be here for 3 days. So please know that I recognize you, and actually my #1 mission, my job today, is to simply say thank you. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for how you do it. Thank you for not quitting when it's easy to quit. Sean, you've taught me how many times you could have quit and you didn't. And you do it for kids who you will never know and who will never know you, and yet you do it anyway. And you do it all the time, and you never quit. Thank you for that. Thank you. Wow. Okay. Thank you for what you do every day. I've said that. What I intend to do is I want to say thank you for the way you do it, because the way you do it is really, poets talk about it, behavioral scientists study it, business leaders write books about it and make millions of dollars advocating that we should always do leadership that way, and yet how many times can you look around and actually see that it actually happens? And that's your achievements, the achievements of this organization, are not done necessarily by the organization. They are done in partnership, in collaboration, and enabling the partners that you bring to the table. The partners that you reach out and enable, empower, and create to make things happen in a real world for real people. And frequently, those people are the ones that we forget about first. So it's in what you do by reaching out that makes you powerful. It's in the, I wrote a master's thesis about this, it's in the quality and nature of relationships that you create that your power is evident, that makes your power evident. Use English, son. That makes you powerful, that makes you effective, that makes you successful. It's in the quality and nature of the relationships that you create that makes the world go round. And it works. And it works because you make it work, because you choose to make it work, because you don't lie down and blame someone else for your mistakes or for whatever didn't happen, and you don't let your critics stop you. You continue to continue. You, as a very famous chief once said as he was trying to get his people to rally and continue, he says, "We will endeavor to persevere." And that's what you do. You endeavor to persevere, and you do it with others. And that, my friends, is a powerful thing. You do it with incredible humility as well, and I think that's important to note too. But you do it, and it's not necessarily your job in all cases. And I think of Seth in that particular case. It's not your job that you do everything, and you advocate continuously. And that's also a remarkable thing for you as a specific human being in what you are. You're not just your job, you're more than that. And the fact that you share it and then celebrate it when we're together, that's the cool part. And you need to recognize it. You need to understand that's what makes you cool. Despite the fact that not all of you could sit in the back of the room, you're still cool. Sorry. Oh, the other thing I gotta do, I'm sorry, I gotta take a minute here, let me check my, okay. And so I was talking to Seth yesterday, and he said, "Hey, Darel," he says, "make sure that you tell some jokes, because that's what you do really well." And for 25 years I was a school teacher, and people asked me what did I do as a school teacher. I said, well, I did stand-up comedy for 25 years. But the whole point is that Seth said, "Yeah, you got some really cool jokes." And so I won't make fun of the Marines. I'm certainly not going to make fun of the Space Force. Oh, that's tempting. That is tempting. But I'm not going to do it. I was, however, this summer, my wife and I took the trip of a lifetime. We went over to the 80th anniversary of the D-Day invasion and celebrated with the French and all the people of the free world this magnificent commemorative event. And it was an incredible opportunity for me to complete a life point, and that I had a chance to actually shake hands with my father's generation one last time. These are men and women who had been on the beach that day or on the beach the next day, and who had been part of arguably the most important military operation in the modern history of the world. And they did it selflessly and as a group. They enabled others. They did everything that I'm talking about that you do, but they did it as young people, completely believing, and many of them suffered the ultimate sacrifice. And so I had a chance to spend some time over there. And the coolest part was that I got a chance to meet these people, some of the people. And I even got a chance to meet the French president, which is really weird. Presidents are different, but we'll just leave it there. But I had a chance to go to France, and so I was thinking of Seth when he said, "Hey, you got to tell some jokes." And so, okay, and one of the things I did is I worked for a lot of multinational forces. I worked for NATO several times, lots of times. And that's kind of why I got stuck in the desert, as we talked about, because I was the multi-service, multinational guy. And apparently my resume was weird, and so that's why I got picked to do what I did. But the whole point is I love the French. They're delicious when you cook them, right? But the whole point is, Seth, these three jokes are for you. Okay, so the first joke is, how does a French airman walk through the woods? Why do the French plant trees on the Champs-Élysées? Answer, because it gives shade to the Germans when they are walking with their French girlfriends. Okay, you gotta go back to World War I on that one. Come on now. Goodness gracious, World War II at least. Come on. I'm a history guy. Laugh. It's not gonna hurt you. Last joke, Seth. Last one for you. Why do the French forbid fireworks at Paris Disneyland or Euro Disney at 9 o'clock every night? Why do they forbid fireworks at 9 o'clock every night? Well, because if they had them, the French government would surrender to the Germans every night at 9:30. Sorry, I had to. That one's for you. Okay, so let's go and so why would anyone select me to try to be worthy of talking to you on a morning like this? Well, okay, I am truly. My story is really weird, but it's also not necessarily all that spectacular. I was a public school kid, grew up literally, we're talking about the sacred ground that's here on the banks of the river. This to me is sacred ground as well. I grew up literally, my high school is like 5 blocks that way. My university that I went to as an undergrad, and then again as a grad student several times, literally you can see the towers, you can see the spires on the church if you look just over the trees, and it's about 6 blocks over yonder, just on the other side of Division. And I'm so old, I remember when this entire area was a railroad complex that my father worked at and sampled grain every day. And then when it became Expo 74, I was amongst 400